A world changer starts with me first because my world has to be changed. I have to let the Lord change my world, which comes from the inside out. And then when He changes my world, changes my perspective and how I see the world and how I live in the world, then that opens up the door for me to be a world changer, because I can help other people to see what a changed world can be like and look like, and they can come into that changed world.
Mrs. Sharon and Jack Tucker, welcome to GS Stories.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
What's keeping you busy?
Well, with my workshop, my ministry, Toolshed Ministry, part of that ministry has been training welding, teaching welding for different church members within the Global Surge Network. So I've got 2 batches ongoing right now. One is actually meeting today. My assistant, Ray Masal, who's been with me almost 4 years now, is leading that class today.
It seems like the Lord's emphasizing the puppet ministry. So we just got back from doing our first training in Cambodia. So that was really exciting, and was able to take most of the team members over with us there. The Lord provided for that. Also working again on trying to get back to doing some of the balloon twisting and sharing the gospel through balloon twisting. Working on building mascot heads, and once I get that down, to teach others how to do mascot heads, since we use them in the kids ministries. And let's see, haven't done as much magic because HDM is really good with that. Donna Sisieber's ministry, but clowning occasionally too. Not myself, but sometimes some of the ministries want to learn some of the clowning techniques, applying makeup and different things like that. But the majority of the time is working on the puppet ministry, training other people how to build puppets, and then how to use them to share the gospel.
How did you get involved with these ministries?
Well, in 2013, we had the opportunity with another ministry to travel to Bacolod for a week. And they have what they call Toolshed Days or Toolshed Camps. And that's where we actually became, took their name, became Toolshed Ministry. But that was for just a week-long period of teaching carpentry or welding. I'm not certified as a welder or carpenter, but I have a wide background in a lot of different work skills. And so it was just something that I enjoy doing, something I have a background doing, and it just, the Lord just gave me the love to do that and to teach that.
How about you, ma'am?
Lord gave me a love for creativity and writing stories and things, and a love for His Word since I was really young, and then especially when I was first saved. And let's see, after we were married and my first daughter was 4 years old, I wanted to have a party for her. So I wound up being a clown, learning to twist balloons and do some magic. And it's funny how God used that in my life to then, at the church we were attending at the time, to see a notice placed up on the wall that said, Clown for Christ. And it was a summer camp for kids. I called the camp and said, hey, can I come and learn from you? They said, well, if you come and be a camp counselor for that. And so I went and said, sure, I can do that, because I had been a teacher as well, and I love kids. So that's where I learned had my first lessons in clown ministry. And then from clown ministry, the Lord introduced me to other workshops and things in clowning and puppetry. And I fell in love with puppetry and balloon twisting. They all kind of go together. The funny thing was that camp that I went to, the first year I was under others. The next year I got a last minute phone call saying, hey, the guys had to cancel last minute. They're professional clowns in a big city in Virginia. They had to cancel last minute. Can you come and do the camp so we don't have to cancel for the kids? And I'm like thinking, who am I? And I just said, okay. I had been learning all that year how to apply it in my own church and use it with the kids there and apply the gospel more, because then it was mostly clown training and things you could do and good makeup and stuff, but a little bit of gospel. And the things that I would try to do is think, how do I apply the stories from Scripture? How do I apply what God wants us to know to His Word? I mean, to these magic tricks and to the skits and things like that, or to balloons. And so that's where that came in. And puppetry was a part of that. So it all kind of developed from that first birthday party.
What made you so passionate about these ministries that you made it a tool to serve the Lord, like the tool shed ministry and the puppetry?
Is just a desire that God's put in our heart. Before I had no, didn't feel any calling to be a missionary, but after serving in Bacola, that's when that desire and calling started. So yeah, it's from God.
For me, it was, like I said, especially when I was first saved, God gave me a real love for His Word, and just sharing that in creative ways. So I love to take God's Word and give it to people in ways that they can understand it better. And like Jesus told parables to help us relate it to things in our life. And so it would stick with us. And I guess that's just a passion that He's given me, to use things where people can say, because they've been watching me explain something through using a balloon or the way that a puppet shares something, and they say, I never thought about it that way before. So I guess that's just a passion the Lord's put in me, and a way He's given me to share His Word with others.
Did you ever imagine that you'd use these ministries here in the Philippines?
Absolutely not, because I
No.
never even imagined that I would use those ministries in the first place. I never dreamt of being a clown. I never really thought about balloon twisting till I found out about it, and I never thought as a kid, oh wow, Kermit the Frog's so cool, I want to do that someday.
Yeah.
So, and I never even knew about the Philippines before the first time that the Lord showed me a video about a ministry that was going on here. So,
Yeah. No, I had no desire to be a foreign missionary. We'd done just a couple short-term mission trips to other states in the United States, and I enjoyed them. But being full-time missionary was not something that I had ever had any interest or desire. It wasn't until finding out about the toolshed mission camps in Bacola that was the first foreign mission that I'd been on, and it was just something about the people and the Philippines that just I fell in love with. And going back 2014, 2015, and then the formal invitation from Pastor Mark Buxton in 2016, just everything fell into place, and that was the answer to prayer.
But you just recently, I mean, it's not recent, but you moved 2016 here in the Philippines. But you mentioned, ma'am, that you had this calling to be a missionary at 15.
yes.
How did you, how God redirected you that you moved here 2016? That's years after you received that calling.
I think just because God was preparing me for whatever He had in store for me here or wherever He wanted me. So part of answering God's calling is first, I think, serving wherever He has you placed. And if you need to be faithful where you are so that He can give you bigger things, other things. So I think that was just it. That the time for coming here for us wasn't yet, that there were things He had to put in place in our lives. And it took time over years to go from being at that children's party, a clown, to then learning clowning and how to put things into a gospel perspective and the other skills and puppetry as well. And even with puppetry, there came a point, because we were leading, Jack and I were both, had been given a puppet team to lead at our church. And then at one point, I really felt the Lord saying, you need to put this up on the shelf for a while. And he thought, why would the Lord ask you to put a ministry up on a shelf for a while, right? You ask. And I think that's because He wanted me to rethink things, like even how I was doing puppetry, because it's not being perfect. It's about getting His message out. How can you make it simpler, really? And those were the things I needed to focus and learn to do. which makes it more effective for teaching over here, because even when we were in Cambodia, we had maybe 11 hours to develop an outreach for a program. I wouldn't have done that before because it would have taken a month or so to prepare for our programs. But now we can, I'm teaching people, look, you can do this overnight if you need to. So you can share tomorrow. So God has his reasons in all things, even when he tells us to wait, when not yet, that he is doing something, and we just have to be patient and wait for him to do that. Yeah. So
What made you move here in the Philippines?
The Lord. The short answer, but yeah.
I started coming short term first, in a way that I wouldn't have expected the Lord to move on my heart. It was medical missions, and I'm not really medically related. I have a little background in audiology and testing the hearing impaired, and I was a teacher of the hearing impaired. But I came over and I was taught to fit hearing aids, and that's how I came over at first, which is totally unexpected. Just like not having any idea of the Philippines before, having an idea of coming over here for that reason, which is totally out of my comfort zone, wouldn't have been anything I would have imagined. And God did some wonderful things through that, even having thousands of dollars of hearing aids donated and things. But I think God sometimes uses things that he takes us totally out of our comfort zone, so that we're at this point where we say, Lord, whatever you want, it's the best thing, So it was a real good time of spiritual growth to learn to depend on just him and whatever he wanted. And even on, again, waiting, for Jack to have the desire to come to the Philippines. So all I can say, it was a God thing, because there was nothing in that video that was something I was comfortable with or would have done, except for the idea of, this is where God's calling me, and this is where it starts. And yeah, then he introduced the other ministries and gave us the picture through that journey of what his calling was on our life, his specific calling, I guess, at that time. And then he just worked everything out along the way. It was just taking steps along the way in obedience, even though you don't know exactly where it's going or how it's going to come together.
How did you adjust your life in the US to your life here, or before you moved here in the Philippines? Because I believe you have children, you already have your home. How did you adjust, or how did you work it out?
The Lord worked everything out for that. We had started considering full-time, the possibility of full-time in 2015, but the where and the how and just putting all the details in place just was not happening. When we met Pastor Mark Buxton in 2016, and he formally invited us to join Global Surge, from that point on, everything really just fell into place without us having to do anything. Yes, we sold our home. Our oldest daughter, and at that point, actually sold it before they were married, but soon-to-be son-in-law bought our home, car that we had,
and our car,
which freed us of all financial obligations that we had. We had some debt, so that freed that. Our youngest daughter was starting college, but she still had a home to go to on breaks and all. The other daughters were now independent on their own. So the timing and everything, the transition made it very easy. It was a good time for us to transition.
So I'd say for me, it was still hard because my dad was also going through cancer treatments at the time.
Yes.
So that was a hard thing, but I knew that the Lord would take care of everything. If he was wanting us to go to the Philippines, and he would take care of my dad, who's been cancer free for 4 or 5 years now. Yes.
Yeah. So there was the emotional struggle, but like I said, we felt that our daughters were in a good place, and through the confirmation of the way God was preparing us and providing for those needs, we knew that this was what God wanted us to do.
What was their reaction when you said we'll be missionaries in the Philippines?
They were supportive.
By that time, they weren't surprised
No,
because we'd
Yeah.
been coming short term. I had been and they knew my heart for the Philippines. So, I mean, when your mom races around looking for coins to finish sending a balikbayan to help, kids in the Philippines, your mom's heart for that. And we'd been coming by that time 5 years or so. I'd been
Well,
short term, right?
you
I
had.
had been, yeah. And Jack
3 years
3 years, I think. So,
or 4 years.
so I think they didn't have a problem with it. I'm sure they saw it coming.
And I can see your full commitment here in the Philippines and with the ministries that you have. You've been training other puppeteers in different cities here in the Philippines. You had been helping in Marikina with your tool shed ministry. We can see your full commitment. One of our principles here in Global Surge is we are all here by choice. No one's making you stay, no one's making you go. But if you stay, be with us 100%. And we can see that in your life. What are your thoughts with this principle?
Well, when you first hear it, it sounds a little harsh, but that's what Jesus expected of his disciples. Peter and Peter, James, John, they left their family business. They left their families when Jesus said, "Follow me." They didn't second guess. They didn't think. So, for any business, enterprise, ministry to survive and grow, you need people that are 100% committed to the team, to the vision of the ministry. And so, it's a biblical concept, and once you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
And I think we have to it's because God has called us here and we've chosen to follow him. And because he's the one, like, even though our pastor said, "Oh, you should get under Global Surge," it wasn't because our pastor said you should get under Global Surge that our decision didn't come till we felt God was saying, "This is who I want you to come under." So, he invites us, and then it's our choice. I mean, we could choose to not. We could have chosen to not come and to just stay in the U.S. and retire there and serve over there, but it was our choice. God gave us that choice, and we accepted that choice and took that choice. And the same thing with leaving. That we could leave if we wanted to leave. We don't want to leave until God says, "Hey, it's time for you to leave." Why serve if you're not going to give 100%? So, yeah, I very much agree with that. Yeah.
And it's a different type of assurance when you know that it's God who called you to do or to stay here in the Philippines or to leave something, right? How would you encourage others, other ministers, those who are called to do ministry but are holding back because of their profession or because of other priorities they have in mind or they have in their lives? How would you encourage them to live by this principle?
One of the messages that I relay with tools is, I'm a tool guy, so Jesus spoke in parables. I use tools for foundations. A hammer is designed for a specific purpose. You could use a hammer for other things, but it will never be used fully until it's used for what it's designed for. And so, we will never experience fully what God has for us until we submit to what God has planned for us. And once you do that, then then everything will be be provided. He provides, he cares for us, he protects, directs. I don't know, just you have to make that decision to submit and say, yes, Lord.
Yeah. I guess I think back a while ago, in the midst of praying for things and for the Lord to open the door for missions and move Jack's heart towards that as well. And I made this, it's kind of like a little Christmas decoration. I still have it. And it's it's just words and on there, and it's the word God and will. And it's just, and the word, it's in being in the center of God's will is what the little picture is to me. And no matter what, because there's no better place to be than in the center of God's will. And if I need to give up something to be in the center of God's will, then I need to give up whatever that is, and take those small steps of obedience to be in the center of God's will. Because when I look back over my life, I can't think of any better places than at those times when I have been in the center of God's will and let Him direct me, even if it was a place I didn't understand what it was going to look like long term. I mean, even like now, because of getting a little bit older, my body has some issues that there's some constant pain and things like that. So things are harder. I get tired out easier, things like that. But I don't want to give up, because He's always talking about, if you read the Word, He's always talking about persevering and being victorious and conquering. So in all of this, and Jesus didn't leave us without knowing that it was going to be hard, that we would have to make hard decisions, right? And that we would have to leave things behind that we love, and leave things behind that are hard. But just remembering that there is no better place to be than in the middle of God's will, that God is faithful, and what He begins in us, He will continue until the day we're finally with Him and everything's perfect. It's not perfect now, but we just have to trust Him that He will do everything to make us who He's called us to be. And we have to do our part of taking that next step, even when it gets hard, even when we don't feel like it, that we're just taking that next step of faith and trusting in Him. And it's worth it.
For you, what is a world changer?
For me, I guess the short answer would be someone that says yes to God. God has a plan for everyone, whether it's in your household, your neighborhood, your church, your city, or across the world. And God will make a way for His plans to be completed through you, but you have to just say yes.
A world changer, I think, starts with me first, because my world has to be changed. I have to let the Lord change my world, which comes from the inside out. And then when He changes my world and changes my perspective and how I see the world and how I live in the world, then that opens up the door for me to be a world changer, because I can help other people to see what a changed world can be like and look like, and then they can come into that changed world. So I think it starts with someone whose world has been changed, and then God lays in them the desire to go out and share that change with others.
Mrs. Sharon and Sir Jack Tucker, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Peter, Jane, John, they left their family business. They left their families when Jesus said, "Follow me." They didn't second guess. They didn't think. So, for any business, enterprise, ministry to survive and grow, you need people that are 100% committed to the team, to the vision of the ministry. It's a biblical concept, and once you think about it, it makes perfect sense.